What's your OneLife 100-point score? Which color are you doing well? Which color are you not doing well? Are you flying in high colors? Are you quite a bit screwed? This particular score on a 100-point scale will actually tell you how well you're doing in your life. Welcome to episode 12 of the One Life Theory podcast. My name is Rajiv. Today is going to be an interesting episode because this is sort of the start of where you get to the entire 8 step framework. But before that, and before getting on to the 5 time periods, I'm actually going to take a pause for this episode. I'm going to do a summary, but also going to bring out a very important concept, which is the 100-point OneLife score. Before that, I'm going to just quickly summarize. So, we have gone through an introduction of what One Life Theory is, which was the first 3 episodes. Then we talked about 2 strategies. The first one being a no regret framework, the second one being living a life to your full potential. And both of this should have told you as to what you expect of life once you write down the answers to some of those questions. The third one was the ECE framework, which is explore, commit, experience. And that sort of is the baseline for any and every aspect of life. The next episodes were about the 4 different aspects of life and the 12 sub aspects, 3 in each aspect. And the 4 aspects, which is self, which is green color, service, which is blue color, social, which is red color, and senses, which is yellow color. These are the 4 different aspects which are going to form the core of pretty much this entire framework and what you're going to be getting. So this has been the journey till now. So today we're going to do a score of what this 100-point OneLife score is across these 4 aspects. So for this part, I'm going to get into a bit of very basic math and let's go through and revisit the 4 aspects, right? So we have 100 points and we have 12 sub aspects that we have to deal with. So it's going to be very simple. Today is the version of the score which is not weighted. It's a very simple score on a scale of 100. It's not a relative rating. You have your own absolute score. Someone else has their own absolute score. So let me tell you how to get there. Okay. So there is self, there is service. These two get 30 points and 30 points each. So that's 60 points. Then there's social, which gets 25 points. And then there is census, which gets 15 points. So that's 30, 30, 25, and 15. So that makes up the 100 non-weighted score on OneLife. So how are you going to rate yourself? So for the first 30 points on the self, you're going to ask these 3 questions. How well are you doing in terms of your mind and discipline? How well are you doing in terms of your physical body and the parameters? Third is, how well are you able to handle your emotions and look at everything in equanimity? So give yourself much closer to a 10 if you're doing really well. Give yourself much closer to a 3 or a 4 if you're not doing so well. And any number in between the 3 and the 10 means you're doing average or reasonably okay. So this is how we are going to rate each subparameter, and the summation of that is your score on a scale of 30 for self. The second 30 is for service, and there you're going to ask yourself, whatever work you're doing, do you think it's impactful enough in terms of what you would expect you would be doing? The second question is, are you learning a lot in terms of the people around you, in terms of the work that you're doing? The third question is, are you earning enough money that you think you should be earning at this particular point in time? And again, same parameters hold. On a scale of 10 on each of these 3, you rate yourself much closer to 8 or a 9 if you think you're doing really well, much closer to 3 or 4 if you think it's absolutely screwed, and somewhere in between if you think you're an average. So that's 30 plus 30, that's 60. The next part is 25. So I'm going to give slightly higher weightage for your romantic partnerships as well as your parents and your parenting and kid, right? So 10 and 10 for each. You ask the same questions: how well you're doing on romance, how well you're doing as a parent or with respect to your parents, and rate yourself on a scale of 10, and you're going to give 20 of that. And I'm going to give slightly lesser weightage on the friends and extended network. So I'm going to give a 5 on that. So you ask the same question and you rate yourself a 4 or a 5 if you're doing really well with respect to being connected with your friends. And you give yourself a 1 or a 2 if you're not doing so well with respect to that. So this particular aspect of social has 10 plus 10 plus 5, that's 25. So the marks that you give yourself is on a scale of 25. The last one is census, which is lifestyle, travel, and media, and each have a 5 point weightage. And you're going to ask the same set of questions on these three aspects in terms of how well you're doing and give yourself a score on 15. So your net score is on a point scale of 100, and you actually will have a very clear way in which how you're doing on either green, which is self, blue, which is service, red, which is social, and yellow, which is census, across these four parameters, and your overall score on 100. So, what really does this score mean, right? At a very fundamental level, if your score is greater than 80, I think you are cracking it on pretty much all aspects of life. If your score is less than 40, you pretty much are reasonably screwed on at least two or three big aspects of life, right? And if your score is anywhere between 40 and 80, you are pretty much okay on some aspects, you're not okay on some aspects. I personally have had points in my life where sometimes this has touched 80, not too many times in the last 3-4 years. And to be honest, just a month back, I probably was hovering around the 40 to 50 mark, right? Because I think myself and the service part of my life was pretty screwed. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I was not being disciplined about myself. Slowly, I'm inching my way back, I would say closer to a 50, 60 or a 70. And hopefully in the coming month, I get it back up to 80. And that's a pretty good score. And you also must understand, if you get to upwards of 90, there's a good chance that your circle is completely full. And, imagine it this way, right? So if you are, let's say, only 10 on 30 on self, the green part of the circle on the logo means you're not really fully green, or you're not living it up. And if it's, let's say, 25 on 30, it means that you're doing phenomenally well and it's quite green, right? And you do that to all the four different parts of the circle. The fullness of the circle will tell you how good a score you have. It's the same whether how close it is to 100, also tells you how good a score you have. The understanding that you should get is, hey, all of us at different points in time will have different scores where we're doing well, we're not doing well. And this entire score, the best part is it is completely under your purview in terms of how well you impact it. And the funny part is also, when multiple aspects of life go down south, it becomes so much tougher. But you put effort, get one aspect of life back into the green or back into the blue, then there's a good chance that there's a ripple effect and you get other aspects of life also far fuller. And always it's easier to have the senses on a high score. You have to put conscious effort pretty much on all the other three aspects. So this is the simple score. There is also going to be a lot more of a weighted score and a prioritized score after the next two episodes, which are talking about time and priority. So this is a very simplified version of the score. But nevertheless, this is, I think, a great start for you to understand how this whole OneLife score is. Again, the frequency with which you need to do this exercise. And I also have a list of 100 actual parameters to go and do this in a far more detailed manner, but I'm going to hold that on to a much later episode because this is in itself quite complicated. So I'm going to be covering the priority aspect. I'm going to be covering the aspect on time and making sure that you understand the context of where all this fits into the 8-step framework very soon. So see you tomorrow.